Does travel planning fill you with the horrors, or are you like me and love every part of it? The researching, dreaming of all the places I've seen on Instagram that I know won't be realistic when we get there. Sometimes to the point of over planning, which you need to be careful of because you are on holiday after all, so it's important to take a breath. Stay with me for the next 10 minutes and I'm going to go through some hints and tips that you might find useful for your next trip. So I'm just going to make a coffee and we'll get going. But while I'm here at the kitchen, thoughts on travel biotics. Are they necessary? We sometimes get a dicky tummy, not because of the food we're eating, but just because you're just out of sync with regular life. Are they the same as regular biotics? And do they make a difference? I'm not sure. So I've got my coffee and I've got some notes down here on my iPad. As I said, we're going away in less than a fortnight's time and I feel a little unprepared. And part of the planning of a holiday is a really enjoyable thing for me to do. And there's been quite a bit going on in the last month, so anyway, we've booked the holiday. That's the best thing to get out of the way first, which is the first tip really, is to plan on where you're going, where you want to go, what kind of time of year you can take off if you're working, if you're not working, when's the best temperature to go to different places you want to go to explore so you're comfortable. So I booked a cruise. We booked a cruise and it was an absolute bargain. I'll go into more details of that at a later date. And I booked this back in February. I think might have even been earlier than that. So that's booked. Then I had to book the flights. So I use Google Flights to check out the best prices to go on the best days. Obviously, you're slightly restricted if you're still working with taking a certain amount of time off. But if you can have a leeway, either 2 or 3 days either of your ideal date, then you can get a much better price. I will post up here some how to use Google Flights. It's really very simple. Okay, so these are 2 ways I use Google Flights. Type it into your browser. Birmingham's my home airport, so that stays in there. I'm going to put in 2 dates. So we're free to go away for a weekend in November, going on the Friday the 15th there, and returning on the, bit indecisive here, Sunday. And then you just explore, press the explore button, and then it comes up with everything within Europe there. So that's amazing. So let's click on Paris, and then down the left hand side there we can see the different flights that are going from Birmingham to Paris on that weekend. So the other way to book is if you've got a specific destination in mind. So I'm popping in here Luton Airport to Budapest, and then we'll just do search, and then it comes up with prices here. Good grief, look at that, October the 5th, Saturday, £46. That's incredible. So we click on that and then choose a return date. I've chosen to stay for a week. So and then you search, and then there you go, £46 for a round trip on Wizz Air. That's incredible, from a Saturday to a Saturday. Good grief. On this occasion we used British Airways because we had quite a few Avios points and it just made sense to use them on 2 long haul flights. That was reasonable for us. It made it cheaper than going with any other airline. Talking about Avios, we have 2 credit cards, an Amex and a Barclaycard, which are connected to Avios. So every £1 we spend in the month on those credit cards gets turned into a point. Also with a lot of online shopping, even like Just Eat or something like that, M&S, if you're going to do some online shopping, do it through the Avios app and you get points. It makes sense. If you're going to do it anyway, you might as well have the Avios points. I do love collecting Avios. It's It's like a game. So hotels as well. If you're booking a hotel or an Airbnb, something like that, or a villa, there's multiple platforms you can use now, as well as a good old travel agent. They've got a lot of experience and can be very helpful for you. So book early, especially with flights. If they're a popular flight destination, then they tend to get snapped up quite quickly, and then the odd bits at the end then go through the roof. Alternatively, if you're going on a flight to somewhere which is more further off the beaten path, you might come up with some really good last minute deals. So it's trial and error, really. Midweek is obviously more favourable than trying to travel Friday, Saturday, Sunday, days like that. Once you've decided on your venue, you really should think about your passport. Has it got enough months on it? You should really have 6 months before the expiry date. Some countries insist on it, others don't. Just err on the side of caution. We'll do some research. Now there is a new stipulation within the EU where for us Brits, if you've got a passport that is slightly more than 10 years, so you had some left over on an old passport and they added it on for you, you can't go to Europe. So you've got to have a straight 10-year from start date to expiry date. So that's something to pick up on. Actually, Jim's is longer, so there'll be no Europe until he gets that changed. Next is inoculations. Wherever you're traveling to, you might find that you need some kind of jab. So do look that up in advance and get those booked in. Some you can have all at one go. Some you have to vary them over the week. So it's no good thinking about it the week before you travel. You'll feel quite poorly if you have to have them all lumped together. In fact, some places won't do that for you. Same with malaria tablets. Make sure you've got all those sorted and enough. You've got enough to take, because you have to take them before you go, while you're there, and when you're coming back as well. So transport, when you get to your destination, do a bit of research on which is the best way to get from the airport to your hotel or villa. Do bear in mind, I've said this before, that getting a private transfer to somewhere is often way more expensive than hiring a car. So just weigh it up. Get the Avios while you're ordering that car. If you think you're going to struggle when you get there having data or getting online, then you can download a map off Google before you go, so you've got it on you. It does take up space on your memory, but it's handy to have just in case. It also makes sense to download a few apps before you get there as well. Check out what's available in each country. It's Uber, Grab, Bolt. We've used all of them. They're easy to use. And then you can avoid getting ripped off by some taxi drivers. We've all been there, and you just don't want that ruining your day. For public transport, consider the local app. London, it's Oyster. Japan, it's Suica. Hint. And you can load up those before you go. A lot of countries now you can just use contactless cards. So if you use a Revolut or a Chase, there's so many debit cards now that are travel friendly and don't cost you an arm and a leg every time you use them. So they might be just as easy to use. If you haven't got a travel debit card, then really you should, because they're so easy to get. You do everything online, and it's always handy to have 2 or 3 cards with you. You don't want to be in the situation where you've only got one card and the first time you use it in ATM it gets swallowed. So consider having if there's a couple of you or 2 or 3 in your family, then if everybody's got a different one, that makes sense. Do also bear in mind with regular cards that you might need to tell your bank that you're traveling and which countries you're traveling to avoid those cards getting stopped. going back to renting a car, you can now, instead of getting hustled into buying the extra insurance to avoid the thousands of pounds in excess cover, you can now book that at home as well. You just go onto the comparison websites, and we're hiring a car for one day during our trip, and I've booked the excess cover. It's cost us £2. So when you get there and they're hustling you into getting that extra insurance, you can be sure and say that no, I don't need it. They might try and tell you that, oh no, we don't accept that kind of outside cover. They will do. So just hold your ground with that. Before you travel, also, it would be worthwhile looking into eSIMs if you've got an up-to-date phone that can handle that. I'm going to be using one this year for the first time, so that'll be interesting. We're going to 2 different countries, so I'll get that sorted in the days leading up to it, and I'll let you know how that works. It might be worthwhile just going to your local currency converter in town to get a few notes in the denominations that you're going to need, especially if you're going to the States. You're going to need some $5, $10 bills for tips, and it saves the stress of trying to find somewhere before you've got into a taxi, for instance. So now down to the fun bit, researching your location. If you're here on YouTube, then you probably, like me, spend a lot of time on YouTube researching all sorts of things. So I would recommend just typing in the town, or top 10 things to do, or um, things to do that aren't in the popular places. That's always worth looking at as well, because to avoid the tourist traps, especially if you've been to somewhere before, you don't want to be seeing the same things every time, and you want to vary it slightly. So yes, do some research on YouTube. Also, Google Maps. If you just type into Google Maps things to do in and the town you're going to, then it will come up and it's all pinned there already, so you can have a look at those. You can also use Google My Maps, which is something that's quite new to me, but I'm very excited about it, where you can create your own travel itinerary, and then you can dot all the places that you want to go and visit, and then see how that works in, and make your own route so things make sense. So I think it's very handy, and some people sell their routes online as well, so places that they recommend. So that's quite a fun feature. When you're looking for things to do on holiday, consider your hobbies, your own hobbies, and whether you can integrate them. If you're into live music, why don't you see if there's a gig going on? If you're into sports, look for a sporting event. Obviously, eating, favourite hobby. So you might want to look for the best budget places, the best fine dining, treat yourself one night. What else? Art, look for galleries. So every town's got a science museum, so if you're into that, you should go and check theirs out. Another app that I've started to use is called TripIt, and it's very handy. You can, once you've booked your flight, for instance, you can email your flight confirmation to TripIt, and it puts it in. Same with your hotels, any kind of bookings you've made or places you want to go to, and it puts it all in an order on certain days for you. It's very useful. Do also consider learning a few key phrases in the languages of the countries you're going to visit. Obviously, please, hello, thank you, can I have a wine, beer, and where are the toilets? You'll always find that if you're happy to try and use a few words and phrases, then people generally want to help you a bit more. Packing, yes, so there are lots of lists you can copy online. Just Google packing list for cruise, packing list for hotel stay, packing list for country walking, and then download that onto your phone and just tick them off each time you've put something into your suitcase. I am going to do a packing video, or at least I'll try to. We're hoping to not be taking as many clothes as we think we need. We're away for 16 days though, so that's going to be interesting. With researching the locations, it's nice to leave some room for spontaneity and to not feel like you are rigidly motoring through the day and you're absolutely exhausted by the end of the holiday. However, it's worthwhile noting, my worst fear is to get home and go to and speak to a friend and say, oh, I went to, Tokyo this year, and they say, oh, did you go to the Shibuya crossing? And you're like, oh, no, I didn't think about that. So it's my worst fear is to go all the way across the world to somewhere and not see the thing that you're interested in. You've got to be interested in it, obviously. There's no point in going up a sky tower if you're afraid of heights or you're really not that bothered, So, but it would be awful to miss something. So I do think you should do some research, but don't try and pack the whole day or the whole week with something. You need some rest and relaxation as well. After all, that's why you're going on holiday. Finally, one thing I recommend doing, especially if you're on a long flight, is to take some time to go through your phone and delete old photos that you don't need anymore, videos that went wrong, and free up your phone for more storage. So that would be just a nightmare if you got somewhere and then all of a sudden you'd run out of space. So take that time to do that housekeeping. We all need to do it. Many of us have got way in excess of 15, 20,000 photos on our phones. It's ridiculous, really. But yeah. So I do hope you found that useful. If you've had any benefit from it, a like would be amazing. Thank you. Trying to get over my 11 subscribers. That would be nice too. But anyway, join me next time. I think the next video will be packing, or it could be me wandering about with a gimbal, trying not to look awkward, so I can get used to using that before we're away as well. Take care. Bye-bye. Oh, stop saying Got some notes down here on my iPad. And then it's easy, or excuse me, bloody hell. Oh God, I'm blabbering now.